I'm not exactly sure what led me there. Maybe it was a sudden collapse of my physical body, a momentary disconnection from reality, or something much deeper and predestined. All I know is that in an instant, I stopped feeling the weight of the world and was enveloped by an indescribable lightness. My feet no longer touched the ground. In fact, there was no ground at all, only a vast, ethereal space where everything seemed to vibrate in perfect harmony. At first, I thought I was dreaming, but there was a strange, almost piercing lucidity. Everything felt more real than anything I had ever experienced in my earthly life. An absolute silence, but not an empty one. It was full of meaning, as if every particle of that space resonated with ancient wisdom. That's when they appeared. Beings of light, tall, cloaked in robes that seemed to be made of pure energy. They had no defined faces, yet they radiated a love so immense that my tears began to fall uncontrollably. Not from sadness, but because I finally felt home. "You have been called," one of them said without moving their lips. The communication was telepathic, direct to the heart. "You are ready to remember." "Remember what?" I asked, confused, still trying to understand what that place was. "The truth about who you are, and the key that governs all worlds, manifestation." From that moment on, I was guided by them through realms and dimensions I could never fully describe. Each environment was a living lesson. The landscape shifted according to my inner vibration. When I doubted, everything darkened. When I trusted, the world lit up. And that's how my training with the Mentors of Light began. I was led through a corridor of pure light. The walls, if they could even be called that, pulsed as if they were alive. Colors never before seen by physical eyes danced around me, and a gentle music, made of vibrations, seemed to accompany every step I took, though my feet never touched the ground. One of the mentors, whose presence felt more serene and ancient than all the others, approached me. His energy had a golden hue, and something in his vibration reminded me of the rising sun. "Before you can learn to manifest," he said, "you must first remember who you truly are." With a subtle gesture, he opened a translucent door. Inside, there was an immense circular hall with no roof. The sky above was an ocean of conscious stars watching me with tenderness. In the center of the hall, mirrors, dozens of them, floated in a perfect circle, reflecting not my body, but different versions of myself. I approached hesitantly. In the first mirror, I saw myself as a little boy, frightened, clutching a teddy bear. When he saw me, he cried. The pain of rejection, of abandonment, of the harsh words I had heard in childhood surged back with force. I felt fragile, small. "This is the first veil, the pain of unhealed childhood," said the mentor. "As long as it remains, everything you manifest will be a repetition of that trauma, not an act of conscious creation." I took a deep breath. The mirror dissolved like mist. In the second mirror, I saw myself as an adult, wearing a mask of strength, success, and control. But his eyes, my eyes, were empty. It was the version of me that constantly sought validation, that said yes to everything out of fear of being rejected. I remained silent. The second veil, the character you created to survive. He does not manifest. He only simulates. One by one, the mirrors showed me parts of myself, past lives, fragments of my soul, forgotten promises, buried pains. In one, I saw myself as an elderly woman praying in an ancient temple. In another, as a wounded warrior on a battlefield. In all of them, something remained, the desire to remember. "You must integrate, not deny," said the mentor as the last mirror dissolved. "The key to manifestation begins with inner unity. You cannot create from fragmentation." I wept, not from pain, but from recognition. My whole life I had searched, outside myself for what had always been within. And when I accepted each of these versions as part of me, both light and shadow, I felt my being expand. Something within me unlocked, like a musical note finally finding its correct frequency. "Now," said the mentor, "you are ready to learn the language of the universe." After the integration in the Hall of Mirrors, I felt different. There was no more rush, no fear, none of that anxiety that had always accompanied me on Earth. It was as if, for the first time, I was whole, and with that a new kind of perception began to open. The Golden Mentor, who now felt like an extension of my own consciousness, led me to a new space. It was an infinite valley, covered with vegetation made of liquid light. The sky there was neither blue nor dark, but something between amber and crystal. At the center of the valley, there was a circle of floating stones, each one emitting a unique vibration, like instruments tuned to the heart of the universe. "The universe does not respond to words," the mentor said. "It responds to vibration, and vibration is born from the state of being." I knelt before the circle and he instructed me, "Choose an intention. Any one. But first, make sure it arises from wholeness, not from lack." I closed my eyes. I thought of asking for something. Health, abundance, love. But each thought seemed to carry with it a sense of absence. It was as if the very act of wanting already revealed that I believed I didn't have it. And then I understood. True manifestation is not the desire to have something that is missing. It is the natural expression of a being who already feels whole. I took a deep breath and shifted my vibration. Instead of desiring love, I began to feel love. Instead of seeking abundance, I aligned with the frequency of gratitude. Everything within me reorganized. It wasn't mental. It was an energetic dance. The stones began to vibrate in unison. One of them floated toward me and rested upon my chest. A wave of warmth moved through my subtle body, and I could hear a sound, not with my ears, but with my soul. It was as if the universe itself was saying, "Yes, now you understand. You have become a note in the symphony of the whole," the mentor explained. "Now you don't force, you flow." I spent what felt like days, maybe years, in that valley, learning to align intentions with states of being. I learned that manifesting was not a command to the universe, but a permission. The reality around me responded immediately to any inner shift. If I filled myself with fear, the sky darkened. If I elevated into compassion, flowers bloomed all around me. There, time did not exist. Everything was now. "When you return to the physical world," the mentor said, "you must remember that external conditions are only delayed reflections of your inner vibration. The secret is not to change the mirror, but to change what you radiate in front of it." I remained silent for a long time. The realization had finally settled in. After many experiences in the valley, I was taken to a new space, a kind of ethereal studio that the mentor called the Workshop of Creation. At first glance, it looked like a circular temple, but as I stepped inside, the environment shaped itself to my presence, as if reading my energy and responding in real time. At the center of the room, there was a floating table made of crystalline light. Upon it, thought forms danced, small colored spheres, some vibrating in harmony, others distorted, unstable. What you see are the embryos of the realities you have already tried to create throughout your life, the mentor explained. Some almost materialized. Others were aborted by fear, by doubt, or by haste. I approached. When I reached out to touch one of the spheres, it vanished. "You're still carrying fragments of control," he observed. "To control is to interfere. To create is to allow." I took a deep breath. I was instructed to sit in a meditative posture and connect my vibrational field with the workshop. Slowly, my consciousness expanded until I felt I was part of the room, or that the room was part of me. Visualize something, the mentor said, but not with the eyes of the mind. Use feeling. I closed my eyes and invoked a state of peace. The image that emerged was not what I expected. It wasn't wealth, nor success, nor glory. It was a green field with a child running freely and laughing. It was freedom. When that emotion overflowed from my being, the workshop responded. A new sphere was born at the center of the table, soft and clear like a drop of dew. It spun with balance, radiating a coherent vibration. Now, nourish it with intention, not with attachment, the mentor guided. With a serene heart, I shared with it the frequency of gratitude, of joy, of trust. It grew, like a newborn star. I felt that this creation did not depend on time, nor on effort. It already existed, on some plane, and was merely waiting for my vibrational consistency to manifest. Every pure desire is a plan already existing within the field of the Source, said the mentor. What prevents its materialization is not the absence of power, but the incoherence of the Creator. An immense humility washed over me. I had always sought techniques, formulas, mechanical visualizations. But there, before the simplicity of true creation, I understood. It's not about doing. It's about being. The mentor then concluded, remember, the universe is a mirror, but it does not reflect what you want. It continuously reflects what you are. I left the workshop in silence, touched by a truth that could never be forgotten. After leaving the workshop of creation, I was led to a staircase of light suspended in the void. Each step seemed to float above infinity, and with every movement upward, I felt my vibration rise. I ascended, guided by a new mentor. His energy was silver, almost lunar, and his presence carried a silent wisdom as if every atom of his being was composed of eons of knowledge. In the spiritual plane, he said, manifestation is natural. But in the physical plane, density and time create resistance. That is why many forget how to co-create. We stopped before a great circular portal which opened silently. Inside, 7 luminous symbols floated, each vibrating at a specific frequency. The mentor pointed to the first. The universe does not respond to what you ask with words, but to what you are clear in vibrating. Internal confusion sends mixed signals. Clarity is not shouting a desire, it is becoming it. Thought, emotion, and action must move together. When you think about abundance but feel fear and act from scarcity, you create an incoherent field that collapses before it can manifest. Attachment distorts creation. When you need something too much to be happy, you are declaring that you are not happy now, and that is what the universe replicates. The conscious creator learns to desire without depending. Before creating outwardly, align inwardly. The most powerful manifestation arises when you are vibrating in alignment with your soul, not with the desires of the ego. What is yours by vibrational right will arrive at the exact moment. Resistance, doubt, or haste only delay it. Trust is the catalyst. It is not enough just to feel. When the vibration is correct, the universe inspires actions, small, steps that become bridges for the invisible to become visible. Ignoring that impulse is to refuse the gift. Gratitude is not only thanking for what has already arrived, but living as if it is already real. It is the vibrational field closest to the source. Everything you truly give thanks for, you strengthen. As the mentor spoke, each symbol dissolved into me, as if activating something long dormant. I felt that these laws were not new, they were merely forgotten. You are remembering, he said. We are not teaching you. We are simply lifting the veil. I sat there before the symbols and remained silent. Everything made sense now. My failures, my frustrations, my victories, all had been related to these laws, and in that instant I understood. Manifesting was not a technique, but an art, the art of being one with the source and trusting in the flow of creation. After integrating the 7 laws, I was guided to a new dimension. The air there was lighter, almost non-existent. I no longer saw with eyes, I perceived. I no longer walked, I floated. I no longer heard, I understood directly. It was as if everything was happening within me, yet with the clarity of something external. The Silver Mentor smiled as if to say, "Now you are ready for the archetypes." We were taken to a vast cosmic space. There was no ground, no walls, no sky. It was a vibrational ocean where symbols floated like living constellations. Each one radiated a distinct energy. My being recognized many of them without knowing how. They were universal forces, present since the dawn of every soul's journey. Archetypes are matrices, the Mentor explained. They are the original models of creation. Every manifestation passes through one or more of them. He pointed to 7 primary archetypes: the energy of beginnings, ideas, dreams, creative impulses. Every desire is born with this archetype, but if the seed is not nurtured, it dies within potentiality. The energy of resistance and trial. Every true dream will be challenged, not to destroy you, but to purify you. Here, genuine desire is separated from the illusion of the ego. The energy of discipline. The dream now needs structure, rhythm, constancy. Without this archetype, the desire evaporates no matter how pure it may be. The energy of emotional integration. If the Creator is fragmented, so too will be the field of manifestation. To heal oneself is to refine the field. The energy of connection with the whole. Here, the desire aligns with the soul's mission. When this occurs, the entire universe conspires in your favor. The energy of responsibility. The conscious creator assumes what they create. They do not blame nor delegate. They understand that everything around them is a reflection of their field. The energy of surrender. When manifestation is no longer about having, but about being, this archetype leads to fluid, effortless creation. It is the dance with the divine. You have been all of them at different moments, said the Mentor. But when you unite them in harmony, you become a complete creator. The archetypes began to spin around me, forming a living mandala. As they aligned with my field, I felt more whole than ever before. It was as if every part of me, the dreamer, the warrior, the healer, the leader, was finally at peace. Manifesting is not just about attracting things. It is about becoming who you need to be, so that what is yours can recognize you. That phrase echoed within me like a final key turning inside an ancient lock. In that moment, I understood something I would never forget. The true secret of manifestation is to become the version of yourself that is already living what you seek. And that version already exists, simply waiting for you to remember. As much as I was immersed in wisdom, a restlessness began to arise within my field. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, like a thin cloud before the sun. But over time, it grew. I began to feel a resistance, a silent doubt, as if something within me was still out of alignment. The Silver Mentor noticed. You have learned the laws and the archetypes, but there is a stage that all conscious creators must face, the confrontation with the shadows of their own power. He led me to a deep temple hidden within myself. There was no light there, only silence and darkness. It was not a punishment. It was a mirror. Every being who awakens to the power to create must undergo the purification of intention, the Mentor explained, for the ego will try to use manifestation as an extension of its own emptiness. At the center of the temple, there was an altar. As I approached, a presence emerged. It was a distorted version of myself. Arrogant, needy, manipulative. It did not hate me. On the contrary, it knew me intimately. It was that part which wanted to manifest not out of love, but out of pride. That sought abundance not for peace, but from the fear of scarcity. That said, I want to help the world, but secretly longed to be admired for it. I looked it in the eyes. I am not your enemy, it said. I am only the reflection of your unexamined intentions, I cried. Not out of shame, but out of liberation. Finally, I could recognize the hidden motivations that still lived within me. The desire to be seen, the anger at not being recognized, the insecurity disguised as spirituality. The mentor spoke with firmness and compassion. The creator must be humble, for whoever creates out of alignment with the source will, sooner or later, create their own prison. I touched that distorted version of myself with love, and it dissolved. It didn't disappear. It integrated. It was a part of me that needed to be embraced, not rejected. Then the dark temple lit up. The shadow had fulfilled its role, to reveal, where separation still existed. Now you understand, said the mentor. Manifesting is not about controlling the external world, but about dissolving internal barriers. Real power is silent, serene, and compassionate. It does not shout. It simply becomes. With this purification, I felt my field vibrate differently, lighter, more authentic. It was as if, for the first time, I could manifest without interfering, just by being. And at last, I understood that the shadow is not the opposite of the light. It is the invitation for the light to go deeper. After the integration of the shadows, something within me opened completely. It was as if every part, light and darkness, certainty and doubt, power and humility, had finally found its place. The silver mentor smiled, and with a serene gesture, pointed to the sky above us, where a golden light descended in a spiral. The time has come for you to return to the origin. There are no words, only truth. I was enveloped by that light, and lifted to a realm where no form remained. I no longer had a body, nor thought, nor identity. I was pure consciousness, but not empty. It was filled with a love so vast, so absolute, that I cannot describe it without diminishing its essence. In that state, I understood something that could never be spoken in words. True manifestation is born from the state of unity with the whole. There, at the source, there was no need to ask. Everything simply was. Everything moved in perfect synchronicity, like a single being breathing, in multiple forms. And then, like a silent revelation, I received the answer I had sought for so many lifetimes. You are the manifestation of the source itself. You did not come into the world to attract things, but to remember who you are, and to express that, in matter. It was as if 1,000 veils were torn away at once. I saw all my lives, all my quests, all my attempts to control, to conquer, to prove something, and I understood that it had all always been a calling to return to this place, this state where I no longer needed to create in order to be, for being was already the greatest creation. In that instant, I saw my own vibrational field expand. Every pure intention I had ever carried, every desire aligned with the soul, now took form as lights descending into the lower planes, planting seeds of manifestation in time and space. The King Source whispered without sound. Every lasting manifestation is born from love and surrender. When you become a channel, there is no effort, only expression. Life creates through you. I felt myself dissolve completely. There was no longer an I. There was only a flow, a dance, a silence filled with everything, and then, slowly, I was brought back. Little by little, my consciousness began to descend. passing once again through the layers of being, through the archetypes, through the laws, through the memory of the subtle body. The mentor was there, waiting. "You remembered," he said. "Now you can teach not with words but with presence." I simply smiled. There was nothing left to prove. When I opened my eyes, I was back in my physical body. The room was the same. The bed was the same. But something fundamental had changed. It was as if the space around me had expanded, even though I remained still. There was a lightness in everything. Even the air seemed more conscious. For several minutes, perhaps hours, I remained in silence. I remembered everything. Every lesson, every mentor, every symbol. But above all, I remembered the sensation of unity. That formless place, where everything simply is. I rose slowly, like someone returning from a long dive. As I walked through the house, I noticed the details with new clarity. The sound of the birds, the texture of the wood beneath my feet, the sunlight filtering through the cracks in the window. It was as if the entire world was more alive. Sat down and closed my eyes. I wanted to understand. How could I apply everything I had learned here, on this plane? And then the words emerged, not from the mind, but from the heart. It's not about doing more. It's about being different in what you already do. Manifestation, I understood, did not require elaborate rituals or mystical formulas. It was born from the continuous vibration of being, from the small actions done with presence, from the coherence between what one feels, thinks, and expresses. Remembered the creation workshop, the 7 laws, the archetypes, and I began to observe my own thoughts, my emotions, my intentions, like an attentive gardener. Whenever a desire arose, I welcomed it. I asked, does this desire come from scarcity or from expansion? From fear or from love? Does it bring me closer to who I am or pull me away? The answers came with clarity. I discovered that the more aligned I was with my essence, the less effort I needed. The right things began to flow. Unexpected encounters, subtle opportunities, precise ideas at just the right moment. But now, unlike before, I didn't cling to any of it. I simply followed the flow. I began to live with active gratitude. Instead of asking, I gave thanks. Instead of forcing, I trusted. Instead of doubting, I felt. And thus, slowly, my reality began to change. Not with fireworks, but with coherence. I began to attract people vibrating at the same frequency, projects with purpose, daily synchronicities that made me smile to myself, but most importantly, peace became constant. Not the absence of challenges, but the certainty that everything now was part of a greater dance, guided by a loving intelligence, the same one that had taken me to the spiritual world. I was the same man, in the same world, but with a new consciousness, and that made all the difference. Months passed since my return. My external life didn't transform overnight into a spectacle of miracles, but the true miracle was in how I now inhabited reality. Every gesture, every choice, every silence, everything carried a higher intention. I began to write. I felt the need to share, not to teach, but to remind people of what they already knew, but had forgotten, just as I had forgotten. I wrote about the laws, the archetypes, the mentors, the bodiless journey to the source. But I knew that, deep down, there was something that could not be transmitted through words, something that can only be accessed when the soul becomes still. And then, in a silent dawn, I understood. I felt as if all the spiritual experiences I had gone through converged into a single realization. That was it, the true key to manifestation. It wasn't a technique, nor a mantra, nor a secret hidden in ancient scriptures. It was a frequency, and that frequency revealed itself when I became fully present, aligned, and surrendered to the flow of life, without expectations, without fear, without the need for control. The true key to manifestation is to become a pure channel of the Source, to be that which you wish to experience, to feel before you see, to give thanks before you receive, to act as if it already is, because in the realm of the soul, it already is. Manifestation is not something you attract, it's something you allow, and you can only allow when you deeply trust who you are. That was the greatest teaching from the angels of light and the mentors. That was the gift I received from the spiritual world, and that is the seed I now plant in you, reader. Do not chase after what you wish to manifest. Become it, and the world will have no choice but to reflect it. Today, as I walk through life, I no longer ask, how can I manifest this or that? I only ask, what within me needs to align so that this may manifest in truth? Because I have learned that reality does not lie. It is a mirror. And when the Creator awakens, the mirror changes. Now it is up to you. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and remember, the Source lives within you, and when you become one with it, the impossible simply disappears.